There's something about hearing those church bells in late December here in chilly Cambridge, Massachusetts, that makes me think of Christmas.
I agree. The peal of the bells seems to pierce the cold and warm the heart. It reminds me of that Leonard Cohen song, ring the bells that still can ring, forget your perfect offering. There is a crack in everything, and that's how the light gets in.
Thank God we have poets like Leonard Cohen.
Thank God indeed. Sometimes we need the poets to express what we're all feeling. Now, seeing this as our Christmas special, I thought we'd come to Cambridge to hear the bells that inspired one of the greatest poets, not just in New England history, but American history. This is the old stomping ground for none other than Henry Wadsworth Longfellow.
Oh, he's a giant for sure. His name is sacred in Massachusetts.
So one of his poems was turned into a Christmas song. Maybe not the most famous Christmas song of all time, but some of the holiday giants like Burl Ives and Frank Sinatra included their own versions of the song in their holiday albums. And that modern group, the Civil Wars, have a haunting version of the song that's really becoming one of my new favorites. But the lyrics, most of us have heard, leave out the darkest part of the story.
Well, there's always an undertone of darkness in Christmas, isn't there?
Yeah, I've been saying that for a while. You need to get into a dark place if you're going to see the light. So we've come to Cambridge at Christmas to explore the story behind Longfellow's poem, I Heard the Bells on Christmas Day. Hello, I'm Jeff Belanger, and welcome to episode 329, the Christmas special edition of the New England Legends podcast.
And I'm Ray Auger. Happy holidays. No matter what you celebrate, we're glad to have you with us on our mission to chronicle every legend in New England one story at a time. So many of our story leads come from you. So please reach out to us anytime with your own local stories of ghosts, monsters, aliens, roadside oddities, true crime, and the just plain weird.
Just a quick note that we usually bring you a From the Vault episode each Monday and a new episode each Thursday, but Ray and I are taking a little holiday break to be with our families. So the next 3 in a row will be From the Vaults, including new commentary from us, so look for that. We'll be back with a new episode the first week in January. So we'll explore the haunting side of this Longfellow poem right after this word from our sponsor.
Okay, Jeff, so we're standing in front of the Longfellow Mansion here on Brattle Street in Cambridge.
Today it's a National Park Service site, and it's also known as Washington's headquarters.
It's a gorgeous estate.
Yeah.
It was built in 1759. George Washington made the building his headquarters in July of 1775 and made it the base of operations during the Siege of Boston. He moved out in April of 1776, and in 1819 the house took in boarders to help keep the family finances afloat. Nathan Appleton bought the house in 1843.
And not long after that, Longfellow fell in love with the owner's daughter, Frances Appleton, and with the house and neighborhood. When the couple eventually got married, Longfellow's father-in-law gifted the estate to Henry and his bride as a wedding gift. It remained in the Longfellow family right up until 1972, when it was donated to the National Park Services as a museum.
A lot of creative endeavors happened under this roof. Longfellow used to write on the first floor in George Washington's former study.
Yeah, that's for sure. I think it's always cool to see places that produce the art, including a poem that was turned into a Christmas song.
Oh, I think I know the song you're talking about. I heard the bells on Christmas Day, their old familiar carols play.
Yeah, that's the one. It started as a Longfellow poem. And as with any poem, that began with a story that inspired the art. So let's head back to 1863 and find that story.
It's November of 1863 here in Cambridge, Massachusetts. The United States is embroiled in a brutal civil war. It's a most troubling time, especially here in the home of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow.
Yeah, that it is. Now, Longfellow's had a trying few years, and it all began about 2 years ago when his beloved wife, Fanny, was sealing envelopes with hot wax. Her arm bumped a candle that caught Fanny's clothes on fire. Henry rushed to his wife's aid, but it was too late. She'd been burned so badly over so much of her body. She died the next day from her injuries. Henry was also burned in the fire and was too weak to attend his own wife's funeral.
It was around that time that Henry grew out a beard to cover some of the burn marks on his face. His whole personality changed, too. He sank into a depression.
By the time the Civil War was really heating up, it also took a heavy toll on his heart. Longfellow was an abolitionist. He believed it was important to end slavery. But when his young son, Charlie, came to his father expressing his interest to join the Union Army to help the cause, Longfellow asked him not to.
But Charlie couldn't be swayed. Against his father's wishes, he signed up for military service.
Once Charlie's commanding officer found out who he had in his company, he promoted Charlie to lieutenant. Charlie always wondered if his family connection got him preferential treatment.
By June, Charlie had been stricken with a fever. His father traveled to Washington to bring his boy home for the summer to recuperate. Once better, Charlie was determined to return to his unit on the front lines, and he was under no misconceptions. He'd already seen shells and cannon rip his friends to pieces.
Being an adult, there's nothing Longfellow could do but worry about his son and for his country. Still deeply depressed over the loss of his wife, he found little peace in his work either. Longfellow wasn't writing like he used to.
It's now November. Charlie had spent months on the front lines when a bullet finally found him during the Battle of Mine Run. The bullet entered Charlie's back and came out his shoulder, just clipping his spine. Through a miracle, he survived the attack.
Longfellow traveled back to Washington to bring his boy back to the family home in Cambridge to recuperate. Unlike a fever that eventually passes, it's unknown how long these wounds could take to heal, or if Charlie might slowly slip away. It's December 8th when Henry and Charlie get home to Cambridge.
Henry is beside himself with the idea of losing his son. He'd already lost his wife and much of his will to live. His son's injuries were pushing him to the breaking point.
As the days melt away and December wears on, Charlie is showing signs of improvement. By Christmas morning, Henry believes his son is going to pull through this. He steps outside into the cold morning air and hears an old familiar sound. But today, it's almost like he's hearing it again for the first time. The bells toll sweetly through the crisp morning air. Something stirs inside Henry, and he finds himself racing to his study to put pen to paper.
I heard the bells on Christmas Day their old familiar carols play, and mild and sweet the words repeat of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And thought how as the day had come, the belfries of all Christendom had rolled along the unbroken song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Till ringing, singing on its way, the world revolved from night to day, a voice, a chime, a chant sublime of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then from each black accursed mouth the cannon thundered from the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men. It was as if an earthquake rent the hearthstones of a continent, and made forlorn the households born of peace on earth, goodwill to men. And in despair I bowed my head. There is no peace on earth, I said, for hate is strong and mocks the song of peace on earth, goodwill to men. Then pealed the bells more loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep. The wrong shall fail, the right prevail, with peace on earth, goodwill to men.
The poem is eventually published in 1865, and that brings us back to today.
In 1872, English organist John Baptiste Calkin set the poem to music. Most of the musical versions, like Bing Crosby's for example, only use verses 1, 2, 6, and 7.
So dropping the part about from each black accursed mouth, a cannon thundered in the south, and with the sound the carols drowned of peace on earth, goodwill to men.
Right.
When you hear that verse specifically, it's so obviously a story related to the Civil War.
Yeah, exactly. But take that verse away, and it becomes a story of renewed hope Christmas morning. Renewed hope that arrived through the air, courtesy of tolling church bells.
The song would also be recorded by Harry Belafonte, Johnny Cash, and Andy Williams, just to name a few.
Many people lump this in as a Christian song given the church bells. However, Longfellow was a lifelong Unitarian. And not that you can't be both a Unitarian and a Christian, but I feel like the poem was mainly about the bells, how the sound rang out so pure that he heard them again for the first time.
And on that day in particular, Christmas Day, Longfellow found hope renewed in the simplest thing, the sound of church bells. Merry Christmas and happy holidays no matter what you celebrate.
Yes, indeed.
We're glad you spent a small part of your day with us. And that takes us to After the Legend, where we take a deeper dive into this week's story and, well, sometimes veer off course.
After the Legends, brought to you by our Patreon patrons. This legendary group of people gives us and you a present all year round by contributing just $3 per month. I know it doesn't sound like much, but if enough of you do it, it adds up to helping us with our hosting costs, production, marketing, travel, and everything else it takes to bring you 2 shows each week. Plus, our patrons get early ad-free access to the new episodes and bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. Just head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up. And to see some pictures of Henry Wadsworth Longfellow and his Cambridge mansion, click on the link in our episode description or go to our website and click on episode 329.
There's a Longfellow joke in Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield.
Yes, I know the one.
The first thing I thought of when I saw the name.
Yep.
Oh.
Yes.
So the holidays are upon us.
They are.
I loved that episode. That was a lot of fun to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know.
Yeah, well, every song has got some story behind it, you know.
Sure.
And this is one. This is not, I think, in anyone's top 10. Granted,
no.
But it's one when, especially you hear Bing Crosby or Frank Sinatra sing it, Harry Belafonte. You're like, oh, I know that.
It's probably on every Christmas album from those old crooners. I'm sure.
They all did it.
Yeah.
Burl Ives.
Dog upstairs.
Right. Burl Ives, all the greats did it, no question. So yeah, but the Civil Wars, worth listening. That's a modern group, and they do a very haunting version, very different than the old crooners, and it's still spooky. But they all of them, everyone we just mentioned, leaves out the middle 3 verses, which are really they're awkward when you read them. But the one about the South, the cannons in the South, you're like, yeah, this is about the Civil War.
Do you think the band the Civil Wars did it because of the content, or were they named the Civil Wars because they started with this song? Like, we should just call ourselves the Civil Wars.
No, the Civil Wars. They've didn't they win a Grammy like 3-4 years ago?
I have no idea.
Yeah, no,
I've never heard of them before.
Yeah, they're worth looking up. They're talented group for sure. No, I don't know if there's a connection there or not, but no, that's worth looking up, that song. Also, too, growing up, we used to listen to the radio.
Yeah,
remember that? And on Christmas for 2-3 days before, that's all the radio played.
Oh, we at the station we do it for a month. It's great, and it goes right to January 1st.
It's so. I'm shocked. You've probably played this song.
You know what? I don't think I've come across it since we've started playing Christmas music. And we're doing all the Sinatra and Dean Martin hits and Andy Williams. We're doing it all. I don't think this one's on the playlist.
Why?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll add it next year.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where if you've got to fill 2-3 days of endless Christmas music, you want to diversify as much as you can. Oh, sure, right? Yeah. You don't want to just be like, okay, here's Jingle Bells again.
Again.
Again. Rocking around the Christmas tree, right?
15 different versions of it. Once an hour.
Oh, do you have a least favorite Christmas song?
Dominic the Donkey.
Oh, okay.
I can't stand it. It's the worst song. And I know people that absolutely love it. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
Maybe because I'm not Italian.
Maybe. I don't know.
Can I say that I hate that song? I'm not Italian. Is that okay to say?
It's okay to say.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it's okay. It has nothing to do with the culture. It's just a song. Rocking Around the Christmas Tree.
A song.
That one gets to me.
Does
too.
it?
I don't.
Is there a version you like, or you just can't stand any of them?
I don't know what it is, but it always hits me wrong. Whatever strings it's trying to hit, it just feels so 1950s.
I don't think you can update that with like a new sound. I think it's always going to sound the same.
Like if Foo Fighters did it, I'd be like, better, but I'm still not in. You know
what a song that any rock band can do is "Run Run Rudolph."
Oh, Chuck Berry,
because I just played Foo Fighters this morning doing that.
Did they do it?
Yeah. But anytime a rock band does that, they usually kill it.
One song that I think it's impressive. Of course, you've heard "Santa Claus is Coming to Town."
Sure.
I'm thinking about the Bruce Springsteen version.
Yeah, that's overplayed.
But it's
iconic.
They're so you would swear they wrote it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's theirs. They own it.
Yeah, it sounds so E Street Band.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And you listen to that and you just go, wow, this is Bruce and the E Street Band. They wrote this song, and then other people covered it.
Can you imagine being at that show, hearing that for the first time?
Yeah.
And what an experience that was. And then year after year after year, being able to re-experience your time at that show by hearing that song.
That would be because that's
pretty
played
cool.
a lot.
Oh, yeah.
A lot.
That's in high rotation around Christmas.
I looked it up the other day because I was just like, where did he play this?
Yeah.
It was at a college in New York.
Oh, no kidding.
It was a college gig.
It wasn't even like a big stadium gig, New York City, Madison Square Garden, you'd think.
He was probably like, let's just bust out something weird for these college kids, you know?
That's what it was.
Yeah.
It was like, big stadium, you're expected to hear
Right. It's the hits.
the standards,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then they're like, well, we got nothing to lose here.
Yeah, let's
Bunch
just
of college
play it.
kids. Wow.
You
That's
know
pretty
what?
cool.
Hey, record this for the heck of it. You know what I mean? Like,
And it's such a great recording, too.
Because when he's laughing, it's genuine.
Oh, yeah.
When
I
you
love
hear
that part.
you hear him like cracking up, he's like, Santa
Yeah.
is coming. He's laughing.
And you got to wonder, because is there a video that accompanies that?
I don't know.
Because somebody's playing Santa and being really goofy because he starts
Oh,
laughing.
that's Clarence. Okay. Clarence. Yeah.
Is it the way he's saying it? Is it the way he looks? Is he jumping around the stage? I've always wondered why Bruce starts laughing at that point.
Yeah, I don't know. But it's become a classic. And it's funny what songs just are part of the soundtrack and others that you just could do without.
The hardest thing is, I think, but people find a way to do it, is writing a new Christmas song.
Oh.
That's pretty tough.
Have you heard my song, My Christmas Tree is Haunted?
Yes, of course. That's in high rotation in my FM. No.
It's not that hard. It's super easy. You knock these things
Yeah.
out.
The pub. Oh, we should share ours because the Pub Kings did one last year. Sand in My Stocking. It was about Christmas on the beach.
All right.
And then we can get yours going. Do you have yours somewhere
Oh,
easily
yeah.
available?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm going to post mine today.
Okay.
Later today. You post yours.
All right, we'll
on
see.
the group page.
Okay, fair. We'll do that. But yeah, it is a time for the holiday songs. But each one has a story, and Longfellow is such an icon.
Oh yeah,
just especially in Massachusetts and New England, but even nationwide.
Yeah, of a poet of high standards everywhere.
Yeah, so many great poems that it's kind of cool when you realize that I didn't know it was him. I knew the song. I was aware of the song. Again, not in heavy rotation, but I was aware of the song, and then I didn't know that was Longfellow.
So let me ask you this. Let's go behind the scenes here.
Sure.
What's your process? How do you discover something like that it's related to New England?
Oh,
we're getting deep here with this conversation. We're letting people in.
how did I find out about that? I think someone emailed me and said it was maybe someone had a list of like poets whose poetry was turned into songs.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, well, let's see, who that is.
Do you have like a board in your room with the yarn and tacks, and you're attaching things like he's connected to here in Massachusetts? And
No, so I think what's happening is that my brain is wired to always be looking for these stories.
Sure.
I'm in the shower, I'm at the grocery store, I'm driving down the road, I'm thinking about it somewhere in the processing of my computer brain, right? It's happening right now.
Yeah.
I'm literally thinking of some other story.
so somehow you might be willing this information in
Right.
your direction.
Whenever something comes across, and especially if it's New England based, I go, ooh, podcast. Could that be part of the podcast? And sometimes I go, not really.
Yeah.
If there's an any at all possibility, I've got a literal spreadsheet that I pop in the state, the story, where I heard it, what I know, if there's a link or whatever, and I just pop it in there. And I go, I'll look into this later.
Can we do a second pod? Well, we already have the vault, right?
Right.
So can we add another podcast where it's just the New England legends? Not really.
That didn't make it.
Yeah, I like that.
We've talked about this.
Not
We've
really.
talked about where we would take all the stories that are like a really interesting little nugget, but couldn't possibly build an episode around it.
Right, but just talk about like 5 in one sitting.
Just
and,
knock them out.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do that.
Yeah.
We
Where
should.
there's really no story.
Yeah,
Like
it's-
there was a story back home, Hell's Kitchen. No, was it Hell's Kitchen? Something like that. And we used to go and we'd sit there, and there was really no legend, but they called it Hell's Kitchen, so it was up to our imagination.
Right.
And I looked it up a couple months ago, see if I could find some information. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
So there's nothing to talk about. But it was still a legend in my mind.
There's a story, and we've received multiple emails about it. There's a town, I think in New Hampshire, and there's like these devil monkeys that have been seen there. I'm like, that's right up our alley.
Right.
And I looked and looked and looked, and all I can find is just like, yeah, people see these weird little monkeys in these trees in this town. They call them the devil monkeys.
Is weed legal up there?
Just-
It's legal, right?
Just told you the whole story. Yeah, I think so. I don't know. If not, they just come down to
hallucinogens. I
Massachusetts.
think there's a lot of hallucinogens up there in New Hampshire.
It could be, but that's
Seeing
the,
monkeys.
But that's the story. You would think
Yeah.
just like devil monkeys of where? Oh my gosh, that's the next episode. I've tried so many times.
Yeah.
I can't find anything of substance to make it into a story. I can't even find when it first shows up.
Yeah, we also talked about interviewing people that come up with these stories or hear these stories
Yeah.
and getting their point of view if we can't find anything about it. Well, you
Right.
tell us about it.
Well, right, yeah. I mean, and that's we've talked about doing that, and we've tried pieces of that in the past. But interviewing people's tricky.
Oh yeah,
because not everyone's a good storyteller.
In my line of work, if I have to interview somebody about a pancake breakfast with the Easter Bunny, the organizer for that from the Lions Club, chances are I'm not going to get anything out of them.
Right.
And the subject matter alone. So what's happening on Sunday? Oh, it's a pancake breakfast for the Easter Bunny.
Okay.
Great. All right. Have fun.
Thanks for coming in.
What are you serving? Oh, wait a minute. Pancakes. We already said that.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. You want to give people, and I get it. It's a little nerve-wracking when someone's interviewing you, but I don't know. It's also kind of cool that someone is asking you a question. Think of an answer.
Yeah.
Don't just clam up, and that takes some practice. I get it.
I know we're used to it. Some people are doing it for the very first time.
Right. And that's it's like anything else. You do a few, and then you get better, and then
we have to make it conversational. That's how it works.
Yeah,
And I usually tell people, listen, this is just a conversation. What do? Do I just read from my list of sponsors? And no, we're just going to talk.
Yeah,
and then it's going to come natural.
Yeah. Well,
the microphone always scares people.
Live and learn.
Yep.
Live and learn. They feel on the spot. But anyway, yes, the stories come from every direction. Inspiration comes from every direction. Just like for Longfellow, who heard some church bells, sat down, wrote a poem that became a song.
Again, we wish you happy holidays. If you'd like to get us a present, how about posting a review for us or sharing our latest episode on your social media? That goes a long way in helping others find us. And the more people who listen, the more stories we find to bring you each week. It takes a community to do this, so thanks for being a part of ours. Also, be sure to download our free New England Legends app in your app store.
We'd like to thank Marv Anderson for lending his voice acting talents this week. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you so much to our Patreon patrons. And our theme music is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember,
the bazaar is closer than you think.